Everyone, this is Troy Lautenbach. I'm going to let him talk about himself and what his life accomplishments here in a second. But been good friends for years. He owns Lautenbach Industries, like I said in the email. So we're going to have just a real informal, nothing planned discussion about both construction recycling stuff that may benefit us. They also do demolition with your company, right? And some asbestos type stuff, since they deal with that all the time. He knows a little bit more than I do about it. So these are all PMs. So this is Jason, Ed. I just met BJ. He's our safety coordinator / do-it-all guy. Desi, Rob, Pete are PMs. And then Josh, that you just met, is a account rep. He's in sales. But he lives up here with us. Anyway, so yeah, take it.
Cool. All right, well, thanks for having me. I don't have anything planned or specifically outlined for, didn't prepare really for anything. I was just going to get up here and kind of tell you what I know about what I do and that sort of thing. A little bit of background. 25 years ago is when I started. This actually April, so we're having an anniversary party in June for the company. As Ryan said, we're demolition contractors. We're a construction demolition recycling facility. MRF is which is a material recovery facility in Skagit County. We also run the Skagit County, or the San Juan Island transfer station. Took that over a couple of years ago, so we have got lots of different permitting. Talk about safety stuff. Got a lot of safety stuff going on and those sort of things. With demolition and the recovery of that kind of material, I figured out that we have to make sure that we can certify that things don't have asbestos in it before we get it in. The two main elements that we're always worried about as a company is lead-based paint and asbestos. And so we do pre-screening to make sure that stuff doesn't get in. And so I've been a HERA building inspector for, 10 years or something. I do a handful of surveys a year. I hate doing them. I'm not a paperwork guy. It takes a little bit of paperwork to do it, but I could survey this building if I needed to. What it entails is a 24-hour class down in Seattle, and then you also have to do a 4-hour refresher every 2 years, which kind of keeps me up to speed a little bit. From your guys' standpoint, and another thing that's kind of important, I think, in Washington, I know you guys work out all over the United States, but in Washington, Department of Labor and Industries, which oversees contractors, which a lot of you guys probably already know this, but I didn't know this, and I found out through a L&I inspector that showed up on a construction site that I was doing the demolition work on, Preston Knutson's job, and I was in the excavator and doing the job, and this inspector shows up and he tells me to shut down, and I was literally doing the demolition of a house, and he wanted to see my HERA building inspection, my survey, asbestos survey. And I started backpedaling. This is 8 years ago probably, and I was like, yeah, well, we've got one. And he goes, well, okay, well, where is it? And, well, the law is that you have to have it in hand, with you at the site constantly, like in your job shack or in the excavator. In this case, he told me I should have it, or at least in my pickup. I told him, I kind of said, well, you don't oversee me anyways because I'm not covered by L&I. I'm a business owner, and I'm not covered. He says, no, you're a contractor. I cover you as a contractor. It doesn't matter. You're a contractor. Sent me all the literature on it. So it turns out the way the law is in our state is that you have to have any kind of renovation, demolition, remodel work within the state of Washington. You have to have an asbestos survey on site. And if you've come across something as you're doing demolition that looks potentially like asbestos, you're supposed to shut down and have it tested by a HERA building inspector. Those are something that a lot of contractors don't know about. I don't know what the other states are like, but that is the case.
So two questions.
Yeah.
One, HERA stands for?
I don't know.
Okay.
Asbestos. I don't know. It's a national standard that is set up that you go through this 24-hour course and then you learn a lot about regulations, from OSHA to Clean Air, which is our authority that looks over asbestos in our state, which would be SAPCA, Puget Sound Energy, or Puget Sound Clean Air Authority, or NWAPA, which is Northwest Clean Air, which is down in Mount Vernon. They have different sectors within our state that oversee that stuff.
Okay. And when you say you have to have it on hand, no matter the age of the building? If you're going to demolition a 2005 year built house for some weird reason?
Technically, you're supposed to have one.
Okay.
Wow.
And the reason why is because I haven't verified this, but apparently you can still walk into Lowe's and buy a roofing patching compound that has asbestos in it. So like the silver coating if you see silver coating and it hasn't been tested, you guys should be worried about it. Like on patching on a roof, that's just like popcorn ceilings. Everybody knows popcorn ceilings, but popcorn ceilings, I've tested many ceilings that aren't hot. My house has a popcorn ceiling and it's hot. I tested it before I bought it a year and a half ago. But I don't touch it and it's okay. And we're all exposed to asbestos every day. It's really we had the federal government had a headache back in the early 70s that Manville came along and they tried to cover it all up, and so they just went overboard and said, hey, we're just going to shut down this whole asbestos thing, and they regulated the crap out of it. And so now they just say, you got to have a survey.
What are you calling the survey? HERA?
A HERA building.
HERA?
A HERA. AHERA, I think. I should have brought I think I have my card in my pickup. I didn't grab it. It's really easy to get. If you guys ever wanted to get certified, it's I think $500 and 24 hours of your time down in Seattle, and then every 4 year or every other year you got to have that 4 hours of refresher. It's really easy. Our boys want to do it because they think it'd be a good gig to have. Because they could do it. I mean, I know Tevin, my son, Caden's buddy. I've taken him to job sites and actually had him help me do a survey. Technically you're probably not supposed to do it, but he's your boy. It's not that big of a deal. But if I were to walk into a building, just so you guys know, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what kind of flooring there is. If I see carpet, I want to know what's underneath the carpet. And 9 times out of 10, it's not the tile, it's the mastic or the vapor barrier. That's usually where it is. Either the mastic or the vapor barrier is the most common place you'll find it. Window putty as well, you'll find it there. And sometimes the ceiling tiles that are glued on a ceiling, the mastic will be hot. The vermiculite insulation that came out of the Libby mines in Montana, a lot of asbestos in that. A lot of times it doesn't come back hot though because there's pockets that people they'll test it, but they won't actually get asbestos yet. There might be asbestos in it. What else? There's roofing material. You got to worry about roofing material. Torch down, flat roof. That's 3-tab. You're not going to find it in 3-tab. If you do, you're going to be in the Midwest or in the East Coast, and it's going to be hard to find it. Joint compound in wallboard, you're going to find it there sometimes. It's going to be your older stuff, pre-70. I think 78 is the time when no more asbestos was supposed to be used in building materials in the construction of buildings. But you can still buy it for remodels, or a homeowner can come, let's say you wanted to remodel this building and all of a sudden you went to the store and you bought some. That's what they're trying to make sure. They're trying to not, that they're still identifying that you're going to find that material. Those are, I kind of covered a lot of different building materials. I haven't really found it in backing plate and things like that, but usually you're going to find it in mastic. You're going to find it. Lead, I do a little, I don't know a ton about lead. I just know, and you guys probably know this better than I do, as long as you're not sanding lead, you're usually okay. It's when you start to make airborne, that becomes the problem. Even asbestos, really. I mean, the way the law is that a homeowner can remove their own asbestos out of their house themselves. Otherwise, you have to have an abatement contractor do it. So, like if like my popcorn ceiling, if I wanted to take that out, I can take that out myself and not have an abatement contractor. But if I wanted to hire somebody to do it, I couldn't hire you to come over if you had a contractor's license to take it out without being an abatement contractor. They're pretty specific about that. That kind of gives you the 10-minute really of asbestos, really.
So I don't know if you know this, but how we would deal with this, but you just typically do houses, right? So if we're doing a 200 unit complex and we go in and we test random areas where we think are going to be an issue, do you know if we would have to continue to test throughout the job as we get into new areas? Even though buildings built at the same time, but, you know.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the things you learn about when you go through the class is that you have, I should know this better, but I don't live and breathe this. So you have a thermal surfacing area, TSA, and then you have surfacing area. There's a protocol for how much testing you do. So like, if I wanted to get the drywall sample, I could probably take just a couple samples here, and that would suffice for this. I think it's when you talk about like pipe insulation, you actually have to have there's a sampling protocol that kicks into place. It's random when it's flooring, like a surfacing material, walls, floors, ceilings. It can be random as long as it looks uniform. You know, so like obviously this floor is the same as the floor in the hallway, more than likely, unless there's something underneath it. But when they put this floor in, they took it right down to the OSB or the plywood, and it's the same all the way through. Typically, that's the case. But that does change when it comes to insulation. And so I was thinking about this when I was coming here today. I was thinking, well, what is it you guys do at the hotels, right? Mainly hotels. And so anything before 1978, if the mechanical system has been replaced, there's a low chance that you're going to come across something if it's all been updated since that time. But before that, one of the things that you need to look at is the HVAC systems. Gaskets, you'll find it in gaskets. You'll find it in pipe insulation. The Navy, anything the Navy loved asbestos. In Antarctica, they actually put asbestos on the outside of a steel building, which was like, what do you have to put asbestos on the outside of a steel building for? But it's all over down there. But yeah, so in a hotel, that's, I would say, Ryan, if you found a hallway that had, if you had like a whole floor and they all had the same floor in it, and the same tile in each bathroom, right? I would say if you tested maybe 3 of them out of maybe 20 units, you tested 3 of them and they all came back negative, I assume that they're all negative. If one comes back hot, then you might need to test them all. But that does happen where sometimes a contractor runs out of mastic, right? And he grabs another bag, a 5-gallon thing of mastic that morning, and it's one of the old ones, and all of a sudden it shows up. It's happened. Or just one place comes back hot and the rest of them are not. And so then you look at, well, there could be an issue with how much is it going to cost me to abate that? Well, do you want to pay an abatement contractor to do all of them, or is it cheaper to take a $20 sample of that, all of them, right, and verify that the 90% of them are all not hot, they're no detect, and the 2 came back hot because this contractor came and brought this asbestos mastic in one day and did 2 of the rooms.